I feel like in the spectrum of relationships, I feel like there's a line, right? And that line is where you can go from joking around and, okay, we have a good time and blah, blah, blah. And then it crosses into like almost an acceptable level of disrespect. Right. And it's like the level of which you accept the disrespect from your partner, right? Because like you've entered into this relationship together.
Yeah.
Right. And so you're like, okay, well, that's my partner, they're being disrespectful, but it comes from a good place, so I'm okay with it. Right. And see, like for me, like if here's the middle, right? And this is your average level of like everyone kind of, jokes around with their wife,
Yeah.
The guy's like, the old ball and chain, and then the girl's like, oh, my old man, he doesn't know anything about blah, 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 Like, I feel like
my ladies' trip to Nashville, Tennessee.
Right. So like if that's the middle, I'm more conservative.
Okay.
Right. And not because I'm a Bible thumper or anything like that. Like I'm one of the people like, I don't like being disrespected at all. And I feel like if I don't want to be disrespected and I would never let anyone disrespect my wife, then I have to hold myself to my own standard. Right. So my standard is I would never walk in and like even joking around be like, you're fat, you need to lose weight,
Yeah.
But like I know some people who would just be like, look at this one, I only fuck one fat bitch, she's in the house. Like, and it's like acceptable for guys to talk about that. And like for me, like it's so odd. Because to me, I would never do that.
Yeah. No. And I guess like for me, I see it comes from them not loving themselves.
You think so?
Either. Yeah.
You think it's an internal thing that they're...
Yeah, because like kind of what's inside is reflected out in your relationship. And if you don't value yourself as like internal dialogue is much worse than that fat bitch. And it's like constant. And so that fat bitch is not as bad as
what they're actually thinking.
Actually, everything that they tell themselves every day and their shilt or their game. God, I just shame and guilt. Shilt.
That's a new term. Shilt. Shame and
shilting.
Guilt.
I'm shilting.
Shilting.
So all this shame and guilt that's built up in them, that internal dialogue is so much worse than they have with their partner. But I mean, like, I don't even...
You're talking about their internal dialogue towards themselves or towards their partner?
Towards themselves.
Okay.
And it doesn't happen until their partner starts treating them worse than they treat themselves. And I think that's why a lot of people stay in abusive relationships, because they don't even treat themselves as well as their partner, who's unfortunately treating them as poorly as an abusive relationship. Now that's an extreme example.
Right, of course.
And I really side with you on the like treating somebody right. Like I'm not going to bring up gossip to another person about my relationship or even like talk bad about my partner, because like I guess for me, and my dad always said, is like the number one thing you have to have in a relationship is respect.
Absolutely.
If you don't have respect, everything else fails.
Right. And see, to piggyback on that, and I think it's tough. Because, I mean, what did I say earlier in the podcast with Lauren, right? I think one of the number one things is honesty and communication, right? How can you be honest and communicate with someone you don't respect?
Oh, 100%.
Right? So, like if I don't respect you, you don't respect me, I'm not going to open up and tell you stuff that you could then turn around and throw in my face,
Yeah.
The next time we're, ragging on each other, even though it's all in good fun.
Yeah.
Well,
and then you internalize it, and then you are ready to kick back at them for the next thing that they do or anything that they're out of line for. But then it's like, then the relationship continues to go on because you're not being true to each other, and everything's fake. So, hey, it's just a joke. It's not real. Don't get upset about it. Even though I called you fat, that's not real. But I think the really cool part that you and Lauren have built is this grounds of being able to communicate your desires and like be explicit with what you want to talk about, and like your dreams, ambitions, or things that are wrong. And now if that person was to say, hey, I want to talk to you about something important, there's no dialogue for that now.
Right.
Because you can't even talk about that stuff.
Right. Because then, like, how do you know when they're being serious? How do you know whenever they're being facetious? You don't know.
Yeah. And then how do you know that they're not going to turn around when they brought something up that's actually bothering them and be like, oh, I was, I don't really mean that. I just said that because I was, felt a little insecure and, maybe I'm a little off today, even though deep down inside, they know they want to talk about it.
Right.
And so I think that thing manifests in a relationship that it's like that big elephant in the room that nobody wants to talk about.
Yeah.
And it's just going to become this bigger elephant the more things you add to it, whether it's bank accounts, house, kids, and I think it starts easy when you're dating and it becomes more difficult when you're married. But the more you just allow that other thing to take up space in your relationship, now there's no space to connect with each other because you're completely distant. And respect is the thing that
at that point, there's a certain level of confusion even. Like, of like, when are they being serious? When are they not? When are they being truthful? Like, how can you know? Yeah, you can't. Because you don't trust them. Because respect and trust, I think, are two things. It's like like if you're gonna play bowling and you're using the bumpers, respect is one side and trust is the other. And it doesn't matter how terrible the situation is around your relationship, trust and respect bounce communication back and forth until you figure out the issue of your. Dude, you snowballed that into the greatest analogy